Greetings to class 12 students and welcome to a new video of economics with Nigam sir. Today we'll start a new lesson that is the cost and revenue analysis. In this video we are going to study about the different types of cost, that is the money cost, or it is also called accounting or explicit cost, implicit cost, normal profit, economic cost, opportunity cost, real cost, private and social cost, and lastly, we will also study the fixed and variable cost. In the last video, we studied about the production. We studied that while producing a goods, the producer transform the raw materials into a finished goods, and that is used by the humans in order to satisfy their human wants. So whenever the producer thinks of producing any commodity, then he has to acquire different raw materials or different inputs. So he does not get that free of cost. We don't get all these raw materials or this labor or capital free of cost. It has to be paid something. So that money that is paid by the firm owner or the enterprise is what is known as cost. Now let us now understand the different type of cost. The first type of cost is the money cost, accounting cost, or explicit cost. The money that is paid by the firm to the owner of various factor services in purchasing and hiring the factor service required in the production of a commodity is known as explicit cost or accounting cost or money cost. Or it can also be said as the money that is paid by the firm to hire or to purchase different factor or factor service is what is known as money cost, accounting cost, or explicit cost. For example, the firm owner employs the workers, so he has to pay income for their contribution. So he has to pay some money for their contribution. So he is paid wages and salary. So that is the cost for the employer or the firm owner. So that comes under the money cost. He not only pays the laborer, but he also rents some different machineries or factories or sometimes office building. So that is also cost for him. So that also comes under money cost. And there are other payments made for raw material, fuel, power, etc. So all this cost comes under the money cost, accounting cost, or explicit cost. And this cost is the actual cost where monetary payment is being made by the firm owner, and it is always recorded in the books of accounts. Now another type of cost is the implicit cost. Implicit cost refers to the imputed or estimated value of inputs owned by the firm and used by it in its own production. So, beside purchasing or hiring resources from others, sometimes the producer may also use his or her own property in the process of production. So, but in this case, the farm owner do not pay any money to himself. So, that type of predicted cost or estimated cost is what is known as implicit cost. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Suppose I am a firm owner. I own a firm. And suppose I use my own personal building for converting that into an office of the firm. Okay, I have used my own building for making the office of the business. So in this case, I'm not paying rent to myself. Am I paying the rent to myself? No. So that type of cost, that type of estimated rent out here is what is known as implicit cost. It is the owner's own factor, or is the owner's own property used in the business purposes. So that cost which he actually does not pay is what is known as implicit cost. If he has rented it from someone else, then he would have actually paid that rent. But here in this case, since it is his own property, he does not pay. So that is what that cost which he has predicted. If he has rented it from someone else, then that cost is what is known as implicit cost. That is why this cost is not the real cost. It is just an imaginary cost, and it is not usually entered in the books of accounts, because the farm owner actually do not pay for this type of cost. So that is why this is an imaginary cost. Now comes the normal profit. Normal profit is defined as the minimum payment which a producer must get in order to induce him to undertake the risk involved in production. As we all know, whenever a producer or a farm owner starts a business, there are some risk in it. So the farm owner, while the farm owner takes the risk, and he does some of the work of an entrepreneur. So for that work, he has to pay some monetary reward. So that minimum payment made to the producer or the farm owner by the business, is what is known as normal profit. And this normal profit is the reward for the risk taken by the farm owner. Now let us understand the economic cost. We have studied about the money cost, we have studied about the implicit cost, we have studied about the normal cost. So economic cost is the sum total of both explicit cost and the implicit cost, including normal profits. So whatever cost we have studied till now, economic cost is the sum total of all of these three. That is why economic cost is given by the formula explicit cost, that is money cost or accounting cost, plus implicit cost including the normal profit. Now comes the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of producing any good is the next best alternative good that is given up to produce this good. So this opportunity cost can be explained with the help of an example. Suppose this, if there are any given resources, or if there are any raw materials, and by using the raw materials, the producer can produce either 1 meter of cloth or 20 loaves of bread. He has option between the production of two commodity. With the given resources, he can either produce 1 meter of cloth or 20 loaves of bread. So suppose if the producer produces 1 meter of cloth and he leaves behind the production of 20 loaves of bread, then we can say that opportunity cost of producing 1 meter of cloth is 20 loaves of bread, because he has given up the production of 20 loaves of bread and he produced 1 meter of cloth. He has sacrificed 20 loaves of bread. That is why the opportunity cost out here of producing 1 meter of cloth is 20 loaves of bread. Now comes the real cost. Real cost refers to the efforts and the sacrifices done by the owner of the factors of production in the production of a commodity. So whenever the production is being done, there are different factors or inputs that are used by the owner. For example, we use land, capital, labor. So these are different factors that we use. Landowner, he provides land to the entrepreneur or to the business. So if he uses land for the production of one commodity, then he cannot use the same land for the production of another commodity. For example, if a person has a land, and if he uses for the production of wheat, then he sacrifices the production of another commodity. He cannot use the same land, the full land, for the production of another commodity. Yes or no? So that is why he is sacrificing, he is making some effort. So that effort, if it is measured in terms of money, then that cost is what is known as real cost, for all the sacrifices, for all the discomfort or the pain that the owner have experienced. So if that is measured in terms of money, then that cost is what is known as real cost. Now comes the private cost and the social cost. Private cost refers to the cost of production that is incurred by an individual firm in producing a commodity. Suppose, for example, if I am a farm owner and if I am producing books, then whatever the cost that is incurred by me as a farm owner is what is known as private cost. Then comes the external cost. External cost refers to the cost incurred by the other member of the society. Suppose if I am suppose if I'm the owner of a factory and that factory produces the chemical fertilizers, and because I am producing the chemical fertilizers, there will be some pollution that will be generated in my surroundings. And suppose there is water pollution that is being generated because of the production of chemical fertilizers, and because of this water pollution, the people nearby living living near the factory gets gets sick because of the pollution. So there will be some medical cost that will be generated for the outsider. So that medical cost that is incurred by an outsider, by the members of the society, is what is known as external cost. So it is the cost that is incurred by the people outside the firm. So that is what is known as external cost. Now comes the social cost. Social cost refers to the cost that is the sum total of both the private cost and the social cost. Sorry, external cost. Social cost out here is the addition of the private cost and the external cost. Now comes the fixed cost and the variable cost. In the last video or in the last chapter, we have studied about the fixed factor and the variable factor. So, what do you mean by fixed factor? Fixed factors are those factors the quantity of which can neither be increased nor decreased in the short run. Example, factory building, machineries, equipments, plants, etc. So usually this condition is a short run phenomena. The producer cannot increase the number of factory buildings or machinery in a short period of time. So those factors, the supply of which cannot be increased or decreased in a very short period, suppose in a week, then such type of factor is what is known as fixed factor. And the cost that is incurred by the farm owner on such fixed factor is known as fixed cost. That is the cost that is incurred in setting a factory. The cost that is incurred in buying machinery is what is known as fixed cost. Now comes the variable factor. Variable factors are those factors the supply of which can be changed easily in the short run to produce more output. Obviously, in order to produce more quantities of a commodity, the producers require more of the inputs. So those inputs which can be increased in order to produce more quantity of output is what is known as variable factor. For example, the producer can employ more worker to produce more commodities. So the workers or labor or raw materials is what is known as variable factor. The raw materials and labor are the example of variable factor in the short run. And the cost that is incurred in employing this variable factor is known as variable cost, or the cost that is involved or incurred in buying raw materials or engaging labor is what is known as variable cost. So we have come to the end of this video. We have studied about the different types of cost, that is explicit cost, implicit cost, economic cost. We also studied about the real cost, private and social cost, and lastly we studied about the fixed cost and the variable cost. Thank you everyone for watching this video.